Hey guys, welcome back to the Casual NBA Fanatic podcast. Now, today's episode is about one of the teams that has been absolutely surging since basically around the December point in time, and that is the Boston Celtics. And they're surging once again in the storyline aspects of things, with Tatum's return, obviously. But not just that, but Tatum had an explosive performance the other day against Charlotte. And there's just a ton to unpack, but the main topic and perspective I'm going after in this one is Jayson Tatum and Jaylen Brown back to being the NBA's best duo? The best two-man tandem in the NBA? Maybe they never were. Maybe they were at some point. I mean, if you were ever going to pick them to be the best tandem at a point in time, it was probably going to be that 2024 season when they did hoist the trophy, when Jaylen Brown was getting those Eastern Conference Finals MVPs, the Finals MVPs, and JT was about 5th, 6th best player in the world. Last year, we saw it shift a little bit. JB kind of dropped down in the play rings a little bit, especially due to the lack of playoff success. A lot of the shot touch actually left him. Tatum did rise to around, I had him as the 4th best player in the world, but Jokic and Murray are the duo that they have been fighting with for that title as the best duo in basketball. But I'm not here to say I think Tatum and Brown are the best duo in basketball again, because we haven't seen anywhere near enough consistency from Jayson Tatum's part to put him there. But, I mean, with the playoffs coming up and with how good the Celtics actually look, and with how perfect of a system on both ends of the floor you can actually run with these two guys, which we've been seeing year upon year, basically since 2022. And just the ability for these two guys to literally never give up any sort of value, really anywhere except for the floor, except for maybe you point at Jaylen Brown's, the playmaking troubles that he can have frequently, which he's actually been screwing things up with a little bit. He's actually been tightening things up a little bit recently too. And then maybe some of the spacing concerns as an off-ball shooter for Jaylen Brown. But except for that, these guys are giving you constant positive value on both ends of the floor. And the only knock you can actually give them as a tandem is positional fit. But the one thing I'll argue with positional fit, and again, that's when people say, oh, Jamal Murray, Jokic, their offensive tandem is so superior. But we look at the greatest duo in NBA history, who, in my opinion, Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen. I think that dynamic is very, very reminiscent here with Jaylen Brown and Jayson Tatum when we are scoping into purely just talent. And I say that because we're talking about two apex athletes for their respective positions. Back in his day, Scottie Pippen, just agile, strong as shit, athletic, explosive, really good lateral foot speed and movement as well. Strong frame, long strides. Literally everything we see Jayson Tatum to be right now. And then Michael Jordan as well, just an apex predator athlete. More in terms of the verticality, explosiveness, where Jaylen Brown has a bit more of the size advantages on him to actually overpower certain defenders, which we saw him do against OKC all night long. And just how he's been doing to literally every single point of attack defense this entire year, creating great shots. I just think the dynamic is pretty similar. And then when you talk about the two-way talent as well, it's just really exciting with these two guys. And obviously Boston have seen it for, nearly actually a decade now of these two guys on their roster, when they were both young, budding super athletes who actually did show that two-way upside, but then all the way through to the championship year. And now they actually might give it another run. They might actually be the second favorite for the title, especially for the fact that they're coming out of the weaker conference and they do look like the clear favorite to come out of the East right now. Just in terms of their offensive discipline and their defensive stance as well. They're getting guys working super hard. They got high IQ athletes all over the floor. They switch a ton. They close off as many advantages. Yes, they have some sort of defensive holes that can be poked at. Maybe whether it's Baylor Scheinman or Sam Hauser, but overall, they don't give up many advantages whatsoever on their roster, and their offensive quality is really, really poetic right now, and it's obviously suited more towards the regular season too, with this smart transition spacing as well. But with Jayson Tatum back, and with how he looked in Charlotte the other night, who knows where this team can actually get to. And then when I talk about the actual dynamic where they don't have a single negative trait, or they never ooze negative value on the floor, it is different to what we see from Jokic and Jamal Murray, two guys that can be hunted defensively, whether it's Jokic's athleticism disadvantages, Jamal Murray's technical size advantage, but the lack of discipline as well. He doesn't know how to use his physicality all the time to disrupt taller guys who are trying to get that over-the-top advantage over him. And then when you talk about the SGA Chet Holmgren dynamic or the SGA J-Dub dynamic in terms of that would be the other opposing best duo in basketball as well. I just think guys like Chet, very susceptible to a ton of physicality. And we saw it against Boston as well. Like the ability to literally take him out of the game offensively by putting perimeter guys onto him who can hassle at his base. Obviously, Chet's gotten stronger and he can flourish through contact a little bit more, but flourishing through contact on the ground, so about those pesky defenders that can actually hassle him around his waist, he still has a ton of trouble against those types of guys. And I just think in terms of just, you're always going to get the same consistent, sustainable value. And that's what makes this duo so special. And it's why Boston paid so much money to keep these guys and extend them and to keep Jaylen Brown from leaving all those years back. And to basically, from the defensive stability to the offensive sustainability that you get from two guys who are apex athletes, two guys that, in theory, can create really comfortable looks for themselves against a multitude of different defensive archetypes. That's where you get the reliability of this duo year by year to actually lead what we are seeing, just continual annual top 2 seeds in the Eastern Conference. And it was a top 2 seed last year, and it's a top 2 seed once again this year, even after all the roster turnover. And it's just been absolutely amazing. And the fact that you can get what you've gotten out of Jaylen Brown this year as well, like with Tatum out, just shows the actual star power, not just the ceiling raising components that both of these guys bring, but the actual ability to raise the floor of these teams as well, just with like the absurd volume of shot creation that Jaylen Brown's had to throw out this year. And yes, you can knock him for not being the most impactful offensive initiator out there. But the fact is, the dude's giving you 30 points a night. And obviously he'll have stinkers where he, literally he'll have 29 points on 29 shots. But in the aggregate as well, you're just banking on efficient shot hunting. And that has been what that is what has been so valuable for Boston. And like when you talk about defensively as well, like between this entire tandem, like Jayson Tatum, and we've seen it as soon as he's come back. He's one of the best backline defensive presences that we have in our league. And he still is, even coming back from injury. And his ability to perfectly time and anticipate his defensive play when he's on non-shooters, it's absolutely superb as well, just helping on that backline rim protection help. And then he's just one of the most ultra-disciplined defensive players that we've had in this entire generation. Never bites on fakes in terms of just schematic discipline as well. He just works to disturb players using that wide hips and that strong frame as well to be able to discard guys' momentum and balance initially. He always keeps his hands clean and he plays very relatively reserved as well defensively. And that's where Tatum brings his quality. You're not going to see these high-flying plays or this elite, constant possession-by-possession isolation dominance on the defensive end. You're not going to see that from him. But it's always the little stuff in the team concept of things that makes Tatum so special there. And then also he's just one of the best rebounding forwards in basketball. And then when you talk about Jaylen Brown, like his ability to physically harass and just deny driving lanes, again, with that intimidating frame. And that's where you get more of the isolation perspective with Jaylen Brown as well. He has great reps on some of the top tier megastars in our league. Most famously against Luka Doncic in the 2024 finals. He can actually possess really, really intimidating stuff against a guy like SGA too. So in terms of just the actual tandem defensively, these guys are just so special as well. And then the dynamic that obviously we have to look at when we do grade if this duo can cement themselves as the best duo in basketball once again by the end of the playoffs. It's about what form Jayson Tatum's in. And against the Charlotte Hornets, like everything was on display. He had 32 points, 5 rebounds, and 8 assists in 30 minutes. And he went 12 of 23. He jacked up 10 threes, made 5 of them. And some of them were nasty. A lot of them were audacious, but the actual lift is completely there. And this is without Jaylen Brown and Derek White on the road against Charlotte as well. So to me, and again, we actually haven't seen Tatum play since this was a few days ago. We haven't seen him play since. But to me, it's a bit of a comeback symbol as well, just in terms of for the confidence for him to be able to show that he can actually floor raise and produce. Like this was in 30 minutes of game time. And in terms of just the explosiveness, he exhibited all of that downhill early as well. His switching direction and angles has been absolutely pivotal in that game too. Just snaking pick and roll, splitting gaps in transition. It looked all on display. Just beating vertical rim protectors at the rim, using that frame as well, getting those nice angle releases. And then testing the range, like the 3-ball has been a big struggle for Jayson Tatum since he's gotten back. in this game, just exceptional lift on all those drawback and step back moves that he likes to throw. And he's just jacking the threes up in confidence, and the range as well, and the lift from his Achilles as well. It's all on display at this point in time. The speed of getting into his release out of those hezzy actions that he tries to run and out of those ball screen actions, it's really just been exceptionally confident. And that's the big thing with Tatum. When a superstar comes off such a major injury like that, you really just got to get your confidence back as fast as you can. And the fact is, Tatum doesn't have a big runway before the postseason. And the fact that he's that engaged and he's already gotten himself into this mental mode where he's just going to try and fight his way into rhythm. Yes, it can look ugly. It can look like an 8 of 24 type of night like it did a few nights ago. It can look like it did against Minnesota. But the fact is, players like him, he's just got to fight his way into rhythm, and he'll find his way into rhythm because he's been a top 5 player in this league before. And he's hoisted the trophy as the 1A option. And then when you talk about Tatum, when we talk about the overall value of Tatum's package, the passing looks exceptional. He was hitting dudes downhill in the Charlotte game, specifically, making mid-air reads as well. So those late jump reads, dotting the slots as well as he penetrates and then has to bail out as well. So he's just making all the reads that he usually does, the baseline and slob reads out of bounds. Jayson Tatum is the ultimate passing forward, in my opinion. That's always there for him. And the vision's not going to leave him after a year off the court. And so basically everything that we know of Jayson Tatum to actually be, it's visibly here. It's just obviously maybe you could focus on the selective shot selection a little bit more and maybe sometimes not forcing rhythm in these clutch time games. And obviously Boston hold themselves on producing general quality shot selection. But the fact is the dude's actually putting in decent production right now. And though the efficiency doesn't look that good, this is still a guy that you'd take as a top 25 player in the NBA. Even when he is in this form, he's putting up 21 points, 9 rebounds, and 4 assists. Yes, the efficiency looks ugly, but it's going to keep creeping up as we keep going along. And I just think Jayson Tatum will fight himself back into at least a top 10 player in this league by the end of the postseason, especially with how good Boston project to be towards the back end of this year. And then Jaylen Brown, you don't even need to say much about him. He's been absolutely exceptional. There's a reason why he's probably a top 5 MVP candidate. Yes, he doesn't impact his direct team as much as those other guys do, like SGA, Luka, Victor, Nikola Jokic. All those guys individually impact their teams a lot more and hold way more weight and value for them than what Jaylen Brown holds for Boston. But the fact is, the dude's giving you 29 points, 7 rebounds, and 5 assists on 52% effective field goal percentage. So he's just hurling in this absurd production on very, very decent efficiency. And he can actually do that because he is that fucking powerful as a shot hunter. And in terms of just matchup resilience as an isolation creator, this guy's one of the best in the NBA. He's putting up 6 isolation reps a game. That's top 5 in the league. And he's getting you 1 point per possession. I think that's around the 80th percentile in the NBA right now. For that absurd volume, that is really, really nice to be able to rely upon every single night. And then transition as well. We know what this guy does as an off-ball machine back in 2024 in that 5-out system. But this guy's still giving you 6 transition possessions a game. So he's super aggressive, hunts efficient shots relative to his skill set. And that's why he's just been amazing this year. And there's a reason why Boston, 50 and 25 this year? And I just think we have a lot to be excited about. Obviously, Jokic and Murray, when we do talk about the best duos in the NBA, it probably starts with Jokic and Jamal Murray, and then maybe second, you probably go just because of how obscenely great SGA is and the defensive value that you get from Chet Holmgren, how great he was for the first 3 quarters of this season. I know he's taken a toll back offensively recently, but you probably do throw up SGA and Chet Holmgren just above JB and JT as of right now. But as JT reels his way back in, and we have about 10 games to go, 7 to 10 games to go, and then when we see what the matchup resilience that Tatum brings, and the versatility that he can actually bring a team come playoff time, it's going to be special to see how a guy like Jayson Tatum can just will himself back into rhythm with such a short runway of time. And by the end of these playoffs, especially with the success that Boston project to have to hopefully at least make the NBA Finals at worst, we might be looking at this duo again as the best duo in basketball, even with Tatum only having a month under him. And I think that's pretty special, and it's pretty special for Boston fans as well. to have such an organic duo stay together, build up this chemistry. But the thing is, the ultimate ceiling of these guys doesn't have to be top tier superstars, both of them top 5 guys in the league. They just provide year by year annual stable value to their teams. And that is what has completely sustained Boston's excellence over the years. Just between these two spots being filled to absolute perfection on both ends of the floor, 48 minutes a game. I appreciate you guys for listening to that. I just wanted to quickly just run through just why I'm so optimistic about Boston now. I actually had them as my second favorite contender out east. Cleveland haven't been impressing me as much recently compared to Boston. And with 7 games left, this is actually what matters in the NBA, this stretch of the season. And Boston relatively look healthy. I mean, Pritchard looks like a freak. They found guys like Ron Harper, Baylor Shyman, and like Hugo Gonzalez, the guys that can actually play meaningful minutes probably come playoff time. Hugo Gonzalez, like an exceptional defensive guy, super aggressive, so much intensity, and he can knock down the corner 3 too. In terms of just smart, high IQ basketball players, like Boston look ready for a finals run. And that's crazy to say considering what we were actually looking at before the season started. So I thank you guys for listening. Let me know who you guys think actually is the best in the East. I think it's pretty clear that right now the favorite does look like Boston. They look like the most matchup resilient and maybe the most balanced team in the NBA right now. But that's just my opinion with about 7 games to go. We'll see how the playoffs shape up and we'll hit a few more storylines before then. So I thank you guys for listening and I'll catch you guys in the next one.